Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Figma Motoko KUSANAGI from Ghost in the Shell, the standalone complex version. That's a pretty good series. You know, I don't remember her wearing this outfit a whole lot, but I think it's okay. It's definitely a nice look for her, and it looked good in the show, and it looks good on the figure, so what the heck, why not? I mean, they could have given us where she's not wearing any pants, but you know, some people like pants, so that's okay. I think this one will do. And we do get to see a little bit of skin there for all you perverts out there. You will be happy. Plus, we get a boob accessory, so I'll show you that in a minute. But before we go into the figure review, let's look at the accessories she comes with. We do have an English side. For those of you who do not read Japanese, you can see everything she comes with right there. You can see the boob replacement right there. I'll talk about all that stuff. I'll show you everything right now. We get our Figma baggie to hold all of our spare parts if we're not keeping the packaging. We get the rifle with the barrel extension that goes on there. I don't know how it goes on. I guess it just pushes on. So we get that nicely sculpted. Looks cool. We get her little pistol. Really small accessory, but still has a pretty cool sculpt on it. We get an alternate hair, which I think is the one I would use more often than not. Instead of just having the standard hair, we have the more wind-swept look. So that's cool. We get an alternate face. This one's kind of just a stern face. This one's an angry, yelling face. I like that they did the shading in the eyes. That looks really cool. And then the other face we get is kind of a smiling face. So you have some variety there. We get the display stage. There's the base, there's the upright, and then we get a bunch of hands. One of them fell off the tree, it looks like. But we get two open hands, two gripping hands, two more posy hands, and then two other gripping hands for the guns. So pretty nice array. And then we also get a spare set of breasticles for a particular reason that I will explain once we get into the review. She stands pretty standard size for a Figma. She stands about 5 1/4 inches tall. I think that's okay. I'm sure there have been some taller ones, some shorter ones. I think this suits the character, so it's pretty much what I was expecting. And you guys know, aside from good articulation and good sculpts, there are a few things about particular action figures that I really appreciate, or I really like. One of those things is lights. I like when things light up. I think that's cool, if it's done well, of course. I like when things have clear plastic. You guys know I like that. Then the last thing I like is differentiation in the finish of various parts of the figure. For example, a high gloss jacket with everything else being matte. It looks really cool. It gives the figure something a little extra, and this figure looks great because of it. Her entire jacket is really, excuse me, really glossy and looks awesome, and then the rest of the figure is kind of a matte or flat or satin finish, so it's a really nice composition. I like it. As far as the accessories go that we've already talked about, to swap out the hair, you can just pop this piece off. Sometimes it falls off a little bit too easily, but no big deal really. You can just swap this hair on. This one doesn't fall off too easily, so that's good. I think that does look a little bit better. Even for just a standing still pose, it just looks like the wind's blowing. So I'm alright with that. That's cool. And then if you want to swap out the faces, we can just pop this hair off. See, this one stays on a little bit better. And then you just pop the face off, and it should have a couple of pegs in there, or just one big one. And you can peg this face on. And probably always want to put the hair back on. Doesn't look quite right without it. And there's her angry yelly face for putting her in an action pose. I can show you the articulation for the head. It's kind of like a ball hinge. It's a hinge with a peg on either side or either end. So this is the part that goes into the neck, obviously. So it'll swivel at the neck. And it'll technically swivel where it pegs in to the head also. So you get a pretty decent arrangement of articulation. That's how most of the Figmas are. There are some variations to the joint structure, but most of them have that. And then the neck should have that same joint underneath it also. Of course, it's limited by the collar of the jacket, but it should be there. The shoulders, almost always on a Figma, are connected by a ball peg going into the body. That's what lets the art move around like this. Then we have a ball hinge that is connected to that peg, obviously. That gives us our hinge motion. And then we have a peg that's not a ball, just a straight peg that goes into the bicep. And that gives us our bicep swivel. which you can't see from the outside, so that's pretty cool. If you pose the arm right, you can't see any of it, so that's nice. We have a slit right here in the jacket so that you can pose the arm, no problem at all. The elbows are almost always the same as the neck joint. It's just a standard hinge with a swivel at either side. You don't necessarily need the swivel, that's just how they connect them. But there's our elbow right there, and then the wrists on Figmas. Sometimes we get this type of joint where it's actually a ball hinge with a peg, and sometimes we get the kind of like the link figure where the hand just has a hinge built into it. The torso articulation, some of them have different joints. This one feels like, since it's not popping off, a double barbell, so a ball peg on either end of the peg. That's what this one seems to be. Since it leans both ways right off the bat, I can tell you it's not a standard hinge. Most Figmas have the same hinge as is in the or similar to the one that's in the head, but this is definitely a double ball peg from the feel of it, and it gives you a really good range of motion, and the sculpt is carried on throughout, so it looks good pretty much in any pose you put it in. We have a three-way ball peg for the hips and for the lower torso, so this one will just move around however you want, and it looks good doing it until you force it just a little bit too far, then you can see inside. But as long as you don't go that far, you can really get some crazy poses out of it without it looking too bad, so that's awesome. This is technically a floating crotch piece, soft plastic, and there you can see the bottom part of the three-way ball peg. It snaps into a socket in the thigh, so it can move around on that. Obviously, you can bring the leg pretty much all the way up, and then of course we can rotate around to that socket. That's why it's two pieces instead of just one socket. That gives us a thigh swivel. So hips are pretty good. This one has particularly good range of motion. Not all of the Figmas have the best. This one is really good, so awesome job on that, Max Factory. Then the knees are just like the elbows, standard hinge for Figma, same as in the head. And then the ankles are the same thing. This piece will swivel this time, so we can get a little bit extra posability out of it. I don't know if it's necessary, but this black piece is not sculpted on. It's a separate piece. And the ankles can be rotated into an ankle rocker. So that's awesome. And we get a toe joint, which works really well. So this is definitely a very well done Figma. I know it's one of the more simple designs, so that might be why, but I am perfectly content with it. I think it looks great, and they did a good job. No complaints, really. And now I will explain why we have extra boobages. So we have the boobages that are on there, and they are rather large. They're not gigantic, but they're kind of big. So it might be hard for her to be put in a pose something like this. It'd be kind of difficult because they would get in the way of her arms. So the reason we can take these ones off and put these ones on is because these are a little bit more narrow. They're kind of squished together, and that gives the arm more room to move to the center so that you can have her holding her weapon a little bit more easily. It's still going to take some work because there's still plastic there, but you do have that posability. That little option, it's not for when the figure gets old and things aren't quite where they used to be. It's not for that. It's just so you can pose the arms where they need to go. I haven't tried it, but I bet you these are going to get in the way too much and you're not going to be able to do it. It's going to be, well, you can probably force it, but I would suggest you use the narrow boobages and then you'll be okay. Is there anything else I need to go over? I guess not. I can probably just say it's really awesome, and if you like the show, if you like Figma figures, pick it up. The hands are pretty well done. It's just a black glove painted on top of the hands. So not a whole lot for me to talk about there. I think I'll leave it with that, and I'll post some photos here at the end so you guys can see it in action, but definitely a good figure. No complaints, really. The hair falls out on the other hair a little bit, but that's it. Everything else is pretty awesome. It looks like the character. It's a well-done figure. I think you should probably go buy it. It's pretty cool. I like it, and I think you will too. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.